G'day, electricians. Wes Zandt here from the Down Under Centre, and I'm joined by Dave, and we'll come to you in a minute, Dave.
Okay.
Guys, Dave's actually the assessor. But the whole purpose of migrating to Australia, if you're looking to migrate to Australia on a skilled visa, you're going to need to complete the electrical skills assessment. We provide a service which we call our agency service, which is fantastic, where we'll give you access to what we call as a client portal. And on the back of the client portal will be a client manager, as well as Dave, making sure we're getting all the necessary documentation required for a positive skills assessment, because it is an assessment, not a course. I'll probably repeat that a couple of times through this video. But the portal will enable you will tell you exactly what pay documents, tax documents, references, what we want your references to say, CV to say, because when Dave's doing the assessment, you've got to be ticking the necessary boxes so Dave can give you the positive assessment. Our agency service will include access to the portal, but at the same time, we're getting all the documentation that we need for the visa. So it's a points-based visa. If you're going on the skilled visa, if you're doing the skills assessment just to get your provisional license, it's different, but the portal will be able to accommodate for both of them. That's what the client manager's there to do, to assist you through it. So you'll get access to the portal. If you're from the UK, you'll also receive a free relocation call at the time, which is a call with a previous migrant of ours who's now a relocation agent, to talk a bit about getting settled. You get access to the DUC Employment Hub, which is our tool that connects migrants to employers, as well as you get, if you're based in the UK, for example, you're going to get English test revision and preparation for it. If you are in the UK, you'll actually get a 10% discount code as well. So there's quite a lot of things that you'll get from the portal, but the main message is we're gathering the documentation we need for the visa and the skills assessment, English test preparation. It's all crucial for the ingredients for you to supply for a successful visa to Australia. So Dave, thanks for helping us make this video. Just a bit of a background, mate. Introduce yourself. Where are you from? Bit of a background, buddy.
Yep. Hey, Wes. Good to be here. Thanks for the invite. Yeah, so from the northeast of England, Middlesbrough would be the town. And I went through the whole migration process 5 years ago, almost. Yeah, so went through the skills assessment with you guys and ticked all those boxes, got over here. Then I needed to do the gap training, and then did that. Then I did the contractor's license, so I can work for myself, which I'm currently doing. So I've gone the whole circle, I reckon, yeah.
Yeah, you have, mate. And I guess, look, the intent of us putting this video together is to talk a bit about what's involved. You're now an assessor, which is fantastic. So you want a part of the assessment process with agency teams down on the centre. So we'll talk about that. But let's chat a little bit about, you've been here for 5 years. You're rocked up on the 190 visa, so you arrived as a permanent resident. What sort of work, when you first arrived, what sort of work were you doing as an electrician?
Well, my first job was working for a commercial company. I remember my first week, actually. I was sat in I was going to say bait room, that's what we call it in Middlesbrough. I was sat in the smoker room, having some lunch or a break, and talking to a young Aussie apprentice guy. And he said, you sound like my dad. I said, oh, really? I said, yeah. He said, where's your dad from? So he texted, came back, Middlesbrough. So whereabouts? Told me, came back, whereabouts? And he said, Hawkridge Crescent. I said, I used to walk past Hawkridge Crescent every day with my dog. We used to pass your house. So yeah, I couldn't believe it. So that was my first job, and I went from quite a responsible role or position back in the UK, looking after other Sparkies and checking their work and signing it off and things as a quality kind of role, to with an apprentice telling me I'm doing it wrong. So that was my first job, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So, and then now, whereabouts in Australia are you now, mate?
So we flew into Perth and quarantined there during COVID, and then we came down to South Australia, which is where we plan to settle there.
And you rented a couple of times, and now you're actually you bought a property and you got a house built. Was that built from scratch, or was it built, or was it already an existing property?
Yeah, no, that's right. We built it. So we came up to the hills into Mount Barker's, the suburb, and looked around and found a lot or a plot and chose that, and then found a builder and said, can you put that house on there, please? And that's what we did, yeah. So been in since October. still a million things to do around the place,
I
but
bet.
it's our house and it's nice to own a house again. Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, look, so the purpose of this video is to talk about the electrical skills assessment. So you being a migrant, you've gone through it, but now you're a qualified trainer assessor, and then you're doing the skills assessments for the purpose of immigration. And it's nice,
Yeah.
Dave, because you're on the opposite foot. Rather than being the person being assessed, you're now the
Yeah.
assessor. So let's just run through what's involved with the electrical skills assessment. So the first part of the electrical skills assessment is, I feel, is the most challenging part. You've got to prove on paper you've got the necessary skills. Pay documents, tax documents, references. There's a whole lot of stuff you need to provide, and it's got to be done in a correct way. So the
Yeah.
actual skills assessment itself is broken into 3 stages. First part, documentary assessment. Second part, technical interview. And the third part is a 1-day practical assessment. Please note, it's different to other occupations where at completion of the skills assessment, you'll receive the document you need to apply for a skilled independent visa, as well as the document referred to as an OTSR, which is what you take to the regulator to gain your provisional license and then move forward to the gap training. So 3 stages to the skills assessment. All payments of the skills assessment are paid to TRA and Australia Trade Training College, and the Down Centre will deliver that for the purpose of migration and give a report back to TRA. So it is an assessment, guys. It's not a course. And the first part is, as I mentioned earlier, the documentary assessment. You've got to prove on paper you've got the necessary skills. You want to be saying you've done certain tasks. Dave, the assessor, has to tick boxes. So he's just got to make sure that, the parts that we require, or well, you require, Dave, for a successful assessment are done. But also you've got to provide pay evidence. So you're telling a story. Minimum requirement is a relevant qualification and 4 years of full-time paid work experience. That's pre or post qualification. So if you have just completed an apprenticeship or you've done 4 years of paid work experience, and then you've got your NVQ level 3, for example, from the UK, then you are eligible to assessment. So some people do think that it's after your qualification. It's not. 4 years of experience with a relevant qualification. If you don't hold a relevant qualification, and you can prove more than 6 years, we can get you through the assessment that way. But again, you've got to prove it. So first stage, documentary assessment. Second stage is what we refer to as a technical interview. A technical interview is, I guess that's why we've got you here now, Dave. So what
Yeah.
is involved in the technical interview?
Yeah, it sounds daunting, just the name of it, doesn't it? Technical interview, but it is an assessment, and it's trying to pull out your knowledge and your experience over the years that you're claiming to have been an electrician.
Yeah.
So it's there's a number of. I'm looking at the screen now because I've got things on there. There's a number of critical things that get asked, and you need to answer those
Yeah.
to be able to pass it. But it's all just pretty basic knowledge of an electrician who's been trained as an electrician and worked as an electrician for a number of years. You might get asked what are the effects of electricity on the human body. You as a plumber, Wes, might say it hurts, but a Sparky might know a bit more detail of what happens and why, kind of thing. You might get asked questions about different cables and things you've used in the past, or if you had a high resistance, what would you do about it? Things like that. It's pretty basic stuff, but it's all knowledge that you should have and picked up over the years of being a
So when you
Sparky.
say basic knowledge, because you're the assessor and you're looking at units of competency that I guess have to be ticked off
Yeah.
for them, we're putting this video together, I guess, so people don't go into it thinking that it's super easy, but also understand what they need to do. So
Yeah.
you're ticking boxes from the are you ticking boxes from the information that they've provided, or are you asking a list of questions that are required?
Yeah, it's important to talk about that, isn't it? There is a list of critical questions that they need to answer. Like I said, it is an assessment, and they need to know the answers to these things. And a lot of them are safety questions. So, without knowing how to isolate a fuse board or a circuit to play with the other end of it, you're not very safe. So you really shouldn't be practicing as an electrician.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the difference, I think.
So what be a few random questions that you might ask a electrician during a technical interview?
Well, we start off by asking them about their experience and what they've done, because they've been assessed as an electrician general, which covers quite a vast area.
Yeah.
You've got people working with HV, you've got people working with motors, you've got people working with control circuits, you've got people doing domestic installation, commercial, industrial, hazardous areas. It's a massive minefield of information and work. So I've worked in quite a few different areas myself, on the oil rigs, hazardous areas, things like that. Nuclear site, domestic, can kind of know where people are coming from. So if they tell me what their experience is, I can look at the resume, which I've already provided. They've already done the document assessments. So I know where they're coming from. We can tailor the questions to their knowledge.
Yep.
If there's anything missing that we don't get but isn't critical, it'll get picked up on the gap training when they arrive in Australia anyway. They're not fully fledged when they first arrive. They've got to get to standard here as well. So as long as they can pass the technical interview and things like that, then.
And how long would the technical interview normally go for, Dave?
Yeah, it's usually about an hour. Yeah, doesn't really go over that. I'd say an hour's pretty average time.
So you're throwing questions at the electrician's answering them. Now, we should mention as well that during the technical interview, there'll be yourself, the electrician, there'll be Dave, or one of the assessors, if it's Dave, great.
Yep.
And then you'll have an invigilator as well. So the invigilator's there to make sure that there's no cheating, but also to make sure that the assessment is done correctly. So they're there to protect the migrant as well as the assessor too, just to cover all bases. So, is it daunting? Is it how does the start of the technical interview happen, mate?
A meet and greet. Hi, I'm Dave. I was in your shoes one day, and now I'm on the other side of the fence, kind of thing. So I know where you're coming from. I know it's daunting because, like I say, I've been there.
Yeah.
A lot rides on it. You're trying to immigrate to Australia. It's a massive thing. Everyone's saying, "Are you going? Yeah. Are you going? Yeah." Well, no, I need to do this, and I need to do this, and so we have a bit of an icebreaker and a chat, and just to see, what the person's about and stuff like that, and just to let them know that, yeah, it's recorded. There's an invigilator. It'll dip in and out just to make sure everything's right, to protect them, like you said, and the assessor as well, to make sure everything's getting done correctly.
Okay. So your technical interview, yourself, the migrant, invigilator, general questions about their background, but you'll encourage them to talk about what they've done at the start, and then you come in with a list of questions, and then your job is to tick the necessary boxes to make sure that they're you deem them competent to get through that technical interview. Is that fair enough to say?
Yeah, that's right, Wes. Yeah,
and
definitely.
Is there anything that they can prepare for? Like I know when other assessors are talking, they might say you can look at your CV, you can look at your self-assessment questionnaire, you can look at all the documentation that you've provided. How would you advise someone to prepare for a technical interview, or is it just get in there, relax, be yourself? If you are an electrician, you are going to be able to supply the necessary information for you, the assessor.
Yeah, I reckon it's a bit of both, Wes. You've got to. I would say look over your resume or your CV, because you don't look at it. You look at the last job and you forget about it for years. So unless you've been somewhere for years, but yeah, look at your resume. Look what you've got on there, because that's what you're going to get maybe asked about. And
then, David, are you asking? Obviously, you can't be asking about Australian regulations because the migrant's not here. 9 times out of 10, they're not here unless they're on a working holiday. But how important is it for them to, I guess, understand is there basic rules as an electrician that you have to know no matter what regulations are? Is that what you're asking them as well?
Yeah, the principles are the same, Wes. Electricity is electricity, whether it's 230 volts, 400 volts, 50 hertz, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's electricity, and there's a certain way you go about things. A lot of it's safety orientated, like I mentioned before, about locking things off and making sure you're safe like that. So, with regards to,
Dave,
say again?
Is there formulas that you ask them, or that's not involved in the technical interview? That's more
No.
down the line when they do the gap training.
Yeah, it's kind of taken that you already know that. You're a practicing electrician.
Yeah.
You know how to work out Ohm's law or the volt drop on something.
Yeah.
It's kind of accepted that you've got the qualifications, you've got the experience, you know that side of things.
Yeah.
It's just a chat about other things. Yeah.
Yeah. So technical interview, you're making sure they've got the necessary skills and knowledge and everything. And preparation, guys, just go through your CV, your references, back yourself, the principles. Make sure you get you are revising them.
Yeah.
And then I guess your skill and how you're trained now, David, is to make sure that if there isn't an area that you're not too sure about, you keep pressing until you get the reply that is the correct answer.
Yeah, that's it. Because you can ask a question, and some people might not know what you're looking for in that question. So
Yeah.
you can keep on going, have the conversation, elaborate a little bit, and eventually, the candidate will know where you're coming from and realize, oh, this is what you want to know. Okay, yeah, it's this. No worries.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Bang on, tick. Yeah.
All right, and now practical assessment. So, can you walk us through what happens when when the electricians walk in to the
Yeah.
assessment centre to when they walk out step by step? So the assessments that take place. Now, obviously, this is a video. We're not going to give you guys the answers off it. This is the general. People ask what the assessment's going to involve. So it's a rough guide, listeners and people viewing. But how does it work, mate, on the day?
Yeah. So the guys rock up to 4 people to be assessed on the day, and we'll have a general chat first, just to put them at ease a little bit and let them calm the nerves a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I say, a lot rides on it. The little cherry on the cake, just to finish off all the hard work they've already done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll just go through and we'll make sure they understand what they're going to do today. They've got the documents to read and realise they're going to do a number of circuits. They're going to do some testing. They're going to do installation work, maybe a bit of fault finding if it doesn't work out quite right. And after that, we do certain videos and catch ups, and we'll look at the installation part way through. We'll look at it at the end. We'll do some testing together. Nothing's ever live, so we just do continuity testing and insulation resistance testing.
Yeah.
We don't ever plug it in, and then we'll do some questions as well. There's a few questions just to answer, and
Okay.
we'll
So
record that.
how many actual assessments are they doing? Is it 3 assessments that they're doing?
On the practical day, there's 5.
It's
Yeah.
5. So what are they?
Introduction.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the history and their experience again. There's one a midway point when they've done some work, and they'll ask them what size fuse they've used for a certain size circuit and why, or which cable did they select and why did they use that one. There'll be one at the end. We'll look at everything they've done totally and make sure it functionally works. We can do that with the 4th evidence, which is the testing side of things. So you can test continuity, but you can also do polarity at the same time, kind of thing. Whichever spark you knows, you'll flip the switch and the meter will tell you something different to what it did previously. So that's that. And then finally, the last little bit of the assessment is just a few questions. There's 4 questions to answer.
So is it so are they doing any motor control or any 3-phase work part of it?
There's no motor control as such, but there is 3-phase work. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple of circuits that are 3-phase. So if you're not commonly using 3-phase, with your history and experience, then maybe brush up on that a little bit and the testing methods of 3-phase, because obviously you've got another 2 cables than single phase. So look at the routine of how we test things. Yeah.
Because I think that's important for the for the purpose of this video is just to really understand what's involved on the day. Because
Right.
how long it's like how long is the rough? I mean, you're assessing 4 people. Is it taking
Yeah.
1 hour, 6 hours, roughly 8 hours? How long is it taking someone to get
Yeah.
through the actual assessment?
I think the quickest we've had is about 4 hours, but it's usually around about 7 hours. Yeah. So it's pretty intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop and have a break when they want. But yeah.
Yeah, and then most of the the equipment and everything's provided on the day. So are they encouraged to bring their own tools as well, or we're supplying them?
Yeah, like you say, everything's there. You can just rock up with your pen if you want, but a lot of Sparkies like to bring their own test meter because they're familiar with the controls of it and they know how to use it.
Yeah.
They might want to bring their own screwdriver and their own snips or whatever, but
Okay.
it's totally up to the candidate. But if they don't, it's all there.
So we're saying 7 hours, right? Or 4, 7, 8, whatever it is. I
Yep.
guess it's an assessment again, not a course, listeners. So
That's
they
it.
arrive. How many boards are they actually working on? Is it just the one board that has multiple components to it, or is there several boards?
Yeah, so they've all got their own section in the room, and there's the fuse board or a distribution board screwed to that already. The first fix is kind of done. First fix, or roughing you would call it in Australia,
Yep. So all
which
your
is the
wires are
conduit.
in and everything like that. Yep.
Not the wires, the conduit, so
Okay.
the means to get the wires from A to B.
Yep.
The back boxes or surface boxes, things like that. So their job is to populate the fuse board or the distribution board with fuses, to select the right cable, install it, connect both ends, put the accessories on, whether it's an isolator or a ceiling rose or a switch, and then go through the testing of it all.
Okay. And then that's one part. And then is there how many boards are they actually using?
Just the one fuse board, and there's 7 circuits on it. Yeah, sorry, 2 lighting circuits, 2 power circuits. There's an air conditioning circuit. There's a heating circuit and another circuit. 7 altogether.
Yeah, fantastic. Now we spoke about preparation for the technical interview. How would one prepare for a practical assessment? Obviously, this video is going to be helpful for them.
Yeah.
But is there anything they can do to prepare?
I think that the stumbling block for a lot of people might be testing, and it does come back to them once they start doing it again. But if you wanted to revise and prepare yourself the best you can, I would definitely look at some guidance notes.
Yeah.
We call it in the UK, and that'll spell out the routine of how we test certain circuits and what results to expect.
Yeah.
Sometimes people come to test it and they get the wrong result, so we need to look at it and actually do some fault finding and realise that it was the wrong fuse or it was the wrong cable.
Yeah.
And that's what we do testing for as electricians, to make sure everything is as it should be.
Okay.
But definitely brush up on the testing.
What
That's
What are the areas, Dave, that you feel people on the day? I mean, we spoke about testing, like I guess, are less confident in. If you look at like maybe this just your standard domestic electrician, what areas do you feel that they would want to improve on or practice with, revise?
it's probably more of a domestic Sparky's dream, actually, because it's pretty much domestic orientated.
Yeah.
It's more the people who've been industrial or something and have never done 2-way or 3-way intermediate switching. So again, you've got 2 lighting circuits, one of them independent, one of them's got 3 switches that controls the same light. So that might be challenging for some people if they haven't done it for a while. And I probably have to think about it myself, if I'm honest, Wes, because it's been a while since I've done something like that.
Yeah.
And the cables are single cables or building wire, so yeah, you've got to figure out which cables you need to go which destination and get it all working. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know, people watching this, that as an assessor, like the purpose of this video, we're not telling you what's involved exactly in the assessment, just running through scenarios that would happen potentially on the day. But like the environment that's created, it's not there to it's there to deliver an assessment, because it's a very important assessment to make sure that A, when you arrive in Australia, you're going to have the necessary skills to gain a provisional license, but B, for the purpose of immigration. So it is something that you've got to go into the day really prepared, okay, for it.
Yeah.
But the assessors aren't there to be mean or to make your life harder. Very genuine people, and I think it's a good message to sort of send out. But do revise. Have it. Come in open-minded to the actual practical assessment. And Dave, anything you'd like to add, mate, before we close it off?
No, I think we've covered everything there. Just to touch on what you just said there, actually, we're not assessing them on BS 7671 or AS 3000 as it is in Australia.
Yeah.
The other day we had a Canadian guy. Was he South African guy who lives in Canada?
Yeah.
So he's had 2 countries to deal with. Now he's looking at doing this assessment in England to go to Australia.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's a general knowledge of electrician. Principles are the same. Safety precautions we use, the reason we do testing and why we do it and how to do it, things like that. So it's like you said, it's not trying to catch people out. It's just making sure that they are at the standard required to progress with what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
All right. Well, thank you very much for the insight, and from everyone, good luck with your assessment, and go and smash it. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.
cheers. See ya.